Review.
Hi, I am Althea Joyce Rebellion, and I'll be the first to discuss the Chapter 3, Optimization, Trying to Do the Best You Can. First, I will be discussing the definition of optimization. So what is optimization? Optimization is the process of making a trading system more effective by adjusting the variables used for technical analysis. A trading system can be optimized by reducing certain transaction costs or risks or by targeting assets with greater expected returns. Economists use optimization to predict most of the choices that people, households, businesses, and governments make. To an economist, seemingly unrelated decision, for example, where a college student will travel on spring break, which apartment a worker will rent, or what price Apple charges for an iPhone, all connected by the unifying principle of optimization. Whatever choices people face, economists believe that they will try to choose the best option. However, economists don't assume that people always succeed. Of course, optimization need not be easy, and optimization is often quite complex. To illustrate the complexity, consider the choice of an apartment. In a large city, there could be millions of rental apartments, each with different characteristics to consider, such as the number of bedrooms, location views, and neighborhood amenities. Making an optimal decision then involves juggling multiple trade-offs. For example, how do you compare two apartments, one of which has the benefit of a lower rent and one of which has the benefit of a shorter commute? How would you determine which apartment is a better choice for you? In this, we are going to see how to optimally evaluate such trade-off. We have a lot to say about choosing a rental apartment, but remember that the choice of an apartment is just one illustration of the general concept of optimization. We can use the principle of optimization to analyze any decision that the economic agent faces. From the trivial how many miles will you jog in a workout to the profound how many years of education will you obtain. Optimization can be implemented using many different techniques. In this chapter, we show you how to optimize using two different techniques, which yield identical answers. The first technique is simply calculates the total value of each feasible option and then picks the option with the greatest total value. The second technique is marginal analysis, which we explain later in this chapter. Focuses on differences among the feasible options and find the best of the option by analyzing these differences. Because the two optimization techniques yield identical answers, you can decide to use whichever technique you find easier for each particular problem.
Chapter 3, 3.2 Optimization Application Renting the Optimal Apartment. Let's explore the theory of optimization in more depth. To illustrate these ideas, we return to our opening example in which you are an apartment hunter. Imagine that you have narrowed your rental choice to 4 possible apartments, your shortlist. Exhibit 3.1 summarizes this shortlist, including 2 key concepts of information for each apartment, the monthly rent and the amount of commuting time per month. Exhibit 3.1 assumes that the rent decreases the farther you are from work. As rent falls, commuting time increases and generating a trade-off. Later in this chapter, we explain why economic forces predict this inverse relationship between rent and distance from work. We'll also show you empirical evidence that confirms you this prediction. You might wonder about everything that was left out of the summary information in Exhibit 3.1. What about other differences among these apartments, like how long it takes to walk to the neighborhood laundromat or whether there is a park nearby? We also omitted commuting costs other than time, like the direct dollar cost of public transportation or if you drive yourself, gasoline and tolls. Shouldn't all these considerations be part of the comparison? Just look at this figure, Exhibit 3.1, apartments on your short list which differ with regard to commuting time and rent and are otherwise identical. Many cities have a single central business district which is often referred to as the city center, where lots of employers are concentrated. In most cities, apartments near the city center cost more to rent than otherwise identical apartments that are far away. Why is this so? When your apartment is very close, your commuting time will be 5 hours and your rent per month will be $1,180. And when your apartment is close, your commuting time will be 10 hours per month and your rent per month will be $1,090. And when your apartment is very far, your commuting time will be 15 hours and your rent per month will be $1,030. And when your apartment is very far, your commuting time will be 20 hours per month and your rent per month will be $1,000. The proximity of local amenities such as school or parks should also go into a complete optimization analysis because these amenities change the net benefits of an apartment. To keep things simple, we will omit these other factors for now, even though they are important in practice. We omit them to keep the calculation simple and so that the basic economic concepts are easier to understand. As you'll discover in the problems at the end of the chapter, once you understand the basic ideas, it is easy to add more details. For now, we will assume that the four apartments, very close, far, and very far, are identical except for the differences listed in Exhibit 3.1. Note too that we are focusing only on costs in this example, the cost of commuting time and the cost of rent. We are assuming that the benefits of these apartments are the same, for instance, size or views. If the benefits are the same, then cost-benefit analysis becomes simpler. In normal cost-benefit analysis, the decision maker finds the alternative with the highest value of benefit, which is the benefit minus cost. When the benefits are the same across all the alternatives, cost-benefit analysis simplifies to finding the alternative with the lowest cost. That's what we are going to do next. Exhibit 3.1 contains the information that we need, but on its own, it does not enable us to choose the best apartment. First, we need to sum the cost of rent and the cost of commuting time to calculate the total cost of each apartment. The total cost includes the direct cost of rent and the indirect cost of commute time. To sum these two costs, we need first to decide on a common unit of account. Let's pick dollars per month for now. Because rent is already expressed in dollars per month, half of our work has been done for us. All that remains is to translate the indirect cost commuting time into the same unit of measurement. Exhibit 3.2 Commuting costs and rental costs expressed in common units, assuming an opportunity cost of time of $10 per hour. To optimize, it is necessary to convert all of the costs and benefits into common units. In this example, the common unit is dollar per month. The optimum in bold is far, which has the lowest total cost. When your apartment is very close, your commuting time will be 5 hours, and your commuting cost per month will be $50, and your rent per month will be $1,180, which will be the total cost. Rent and commuting per month will be $1,230. When your apartment is close, your commuting time will be 10 hours, and your commuting cost will be $100 per month, and your rent per month will be $1,090. The total cost, rent plus commuting per month, will be $1,190. When your apartment is far, your commuting time will be 15 hours. Your commuting cost will be $1,050, and your rent per month will be $1,030. Your total cost, rent plus commuting, $1,180 per dollar. When your apartment is very far, your commuting time will be 20 hours, and your commuting cost will be $200. Your rent per month is $1,000. Total cost, rent plus commuting in a month will be $1,180. When your apartment is very far, your commuting time will be 20 hours. Your commuting cost will be $200 in a month, and your rent $1,000 in a month. Your total cost, rent plus commuting, $1,200 in a month. To do this, we use the concept of opportunity cost, which we introduced in Chapter 1. Let's begin by considering somebody with an opportunity cost of commuting time of $10 per hour. This is the hourly value of the alternative activity that is crowded out when you spend more time commuting. The fact that it is a dollar value doesn't imply that this time would have been spent at work if it weren't spent commuting. An extra hour of time has value regardless of what you might choose to do with that time, including napping, socializing, watching videos, taking longer showers, or working. If the round-trip commute takes 20 hours per month and the opportunity cost of time is $10 per hour, then the dollar cost of that commute is a 20 hours over month, 510 over month is equal to $200 over a month. The first term on the left is commute time per month, which is expressed in hours per month, just as it in Exhibit 3.1. The term just before the equal sign is the opportunity cost of the time, which is expressed as dollars per hour. The hours units cancel, leaving a final cost expressed as dollars per month. Now we are ready to rewrite the Exhibit 3.1. Using the calculations that we just illustrated for 20 hours of monthly commuting time, we can calculate costs for a commute of any duration. Exhibit 3.2 reports this commuting cost in dollars per month for all 4 apartments. Exhibit 3.2 gives us the answer to our optimization problem. FAR is the best apartment for a consumer with an opportunity cost of time $10 per hour. This apartment has the lowest total cost, $1,180, taking into account both direct rental costs and indirect time cost of commuting. Exhibit 3.3 Total costs including both rent and commuting costs, assuming an opportunity cost of time of $10 per hour. If the consumer chooses optimally, they will select FAR. This apartment has the lowest total cost, which is the sum of the direct rental cost and the indirect commuting cost. See the breakdown in Exhibit 3.2. The commuting cost is calculated by the using consumer's opportunity cost of time, which is $10 per hour in sample. We also easily see this result by plotting the total cost. Exhibit 3.3 plots the total cost of each the 4 apartments, and as the dip in the curve clearly shows, FAR is the best choice. Economists call the best feasible choice the optimum, which you can see labeled on the total cost curve. To sum up our discussion so far, optimization using total values has three steps. Number 1. Translate all costs and benefits into common units like dollars per month. Number 2. Calculate the total net benefit of each alternative. And last, pick the alternative with highest net benefit. Before and after comparisons, if apartment hunters make optimal choices, then the choice of an apartment will be affected by a change in the opportunity cost of the time. Until now, we have assumed that the opportunity cost of the time is $10 per hour. Let's instead assume that the opportunity cost of the time is $15 per hour. Why might opportunity cost rise? For example, an hourly worker's opportunity cost of time would rise if their hourly wage rose. How does this increase in the opportunity cost of time change the predicted behavior? Before we take through it step by step, try to use your intuition. How would a change in the value of time affect the optimal decision of where to live? Should commuters with a higher value of time move closer to where they work or farther away? To answer this question, we again need to translate the indirect cost commuting time into the same units as the direct cost of rent, which are dollars per month. Accordingly, we rewrite Exhibit 3.2 assuming instead a $15 per hour opportunity cost of time. Exhibit 3.4 provides the answer to our new optimization problem. The best apartment for a consumer with an opportunity cost of time of $15 per hour now shifts from far to close. Close is the lowest total cost, $1,240, taking into account both direct rental costs and indirect time costs of commuting. Exhibit 3.4 Commuting costs and rental costs expressed in common units, assuming an opportunity cost of time of $15 per hour. To optimize, it is necessary to convert all costs and benefits into common units. In this example, the common units is dollars per month. The optimum in bold is close, which has the lowest total cost. Exhibit 3.5 plots the total cost of each of the four apartments assuming a $15 per hour opportunity cost of time. Close is the best choice, the optimum. When the opportunity cost of time increases from $10 per hour to $15 per hour, it becomes more valuable for the commuter to choose an apartment that reduces the amount of time spent commuting. So the optimal choice switches from a relatively inexpensive apartment with a longer commute far to a relatively expensive apartment with a shorter commute close. Exhibit 3.6 takes the two different cost curves from Exhibits 3.3 and 3.5 and plots them in a single figure. The purple line represents the total cost curve for the commuter with an opportunity cost of $10 per hour. The orange line represents the total cost curve for the commuter with an opportunity cost of $15 per hour. Two key properties are visible in Exhibit 3.6. Number 1. The $10 per hour cost curve lies below the $15 per hour cost curve. The $10 per hour curve has lower commuting costs for each apartment, so the total cost, which takes into account both the direct cost of rent and the indirect cost of commuting, is lower for all apartments. And number 2, the $10 per hour curve has a minimum value for far, while the $15 per hour curve has a minimum value for close. In other words, the optimal apartment switches from far to close when the opportunity cost of time rises from $10 per hour to $15 per hour.
Optimization using marginal analysis. We are now going to discuss an alternative optimization technique. Optimization using marginal analysis is often faster to implement than optimization using total values because optimization using marginal analysis focuses only on the ways that alternatives differ. Optimization using marginal analysis breaks an optimization problem down by thinking about how costs and benefits change as you hypothetically move from one alternative to another. For example, consider two alternative vacations at the same hotel in Miami, a 4-day trip versus a 5-day trip. Suppose that you are choosing between these two options. If you optimize using total value, you evaluate the total net benefit of a 4-day trip and compare it to the total net benefit of a 5-day trip. Alternatively, you could think only about the differences between the two trips. In other words, you could think only about the cost and benefit of the extra day. An, an optimizer will take the 5-day vacation if the benefit of vacationing for the fifth day exceeds the cost of the fifth day. In choosing between the 4 and 5-day options, the optimizer does not necessarily need to worry about the first 4 days since those 4 days are shared by both the 4-day trip and the 5-day trip. The optimizer can focus on the one thing that differentiates the two vacations. The fifth day. Economists use the word marginal to indicate a difference between alternatives, usually a difference that represents one step or unit more. The fifth day of vacation is the difference or margin between a 4-day vacation and a 5-day vacation. Marginal analysis is a cost-benefit calculation that studies the difference between one visible alternative and the next visible alternative. A cost-benefit calculation that focuses on the difference between one visible alternative and the next visible alternative is called marginal analysis. Marginal analysis, thinking back to our apartment example. Marginal analysis can be used to study the costs and benefits of moving one step farther away from the city center. So, marginal analysis forces us to focus on what is changing when we compare alternatives. Marginal analysis provides another way of finding the option optimal choice because it gives us insight into the concept of optimization and because we can use it for optimization. Marginal analysis is one of the most important concepts of economics. So, the commuting cost column reports the monthly commuting cost for each apartment assuming a $10 per hour opportunity cost of time. The marginal commuting cost column reports the value of the extra monthly commuting time that is generated by moving one apartment farther from the city center. For example, to, to move from close to far generates additional commuting cost of $50 per month. In other words, the marginal commuting cost column reports the difference between two commuting costs in adjacent position on the list. In this particular example, the marginal commuting cost is always the same. The commuting cost rises by the same amount with each move farther away from the city center. This won't generally be the case, but we've set it up this way in this problem to keep things simple. In general, marginal cost is the extra cost generated by moving from one visible alternative to the next visible alternative. Now, turn to the column labeled rental cost, which reports the monthly rent for each apartment. The marginal rental cost column reports the change in the rental cost generated by moving from one apartment to the next apartment. One step farther from the city center, for example. To move from very close to close would save you $90 per month. So so the marginal rental cost is a negative number. So negative $90. Likewise, if you move from close to far, you would save an additional $60 per month. So the marginal rental cost is negative $60. Finally, we'd like to know the marginal value of the total cost. It turns out that we can calculate the marginal value of total cost in two alternative ways. First, we can add up the marginal commuting cost and the marginal rental cost to obtain marginal total cost. For example, look at the first set of marginal cost number and confirm that $50 plus negative $90 equal negative $40. In other words, a move from very close to close raises commuting cost by $50 and change rent by negative $90, producing a combined change of negative $40. Alternatively, we would calculate total cost itself. This is done in the column labeled total cost. For instance, for very close, the commuting cost is $50 and the rental cost is $1,180. So he total cost is $1,230 for close. The commuting cost is $100 and the rental cost is $1,090. So the total cost is $1,190. Total cost falls by $40 when we move from very close with total cost $1,230 to close with total cost $1,190. Both methods confirm that the marginal total cost is negative $40 when moving from very close to close. Marginal commuting cost plus marginal rental cost equal $50 plus negative $90 equal negative $40. Total cost of close minus total cost of very close equal $1,190 minus $1,230. 1,230 $230 equal negative $40. The fact that we calculated negative $40 in both cases is no accident. The match is exact because it does not matter how we decompose cost to calculate marginal total cost. It does not matter whether we calculate marginal total cost by summing marginal cost category by category or whether we calculate marginal total cost by subtracting the total cost of one apartment from that of the other because the answer is the same. You should calculate marginal total cost whichever way is easier for you. The last column of Exhibit 3.7 marginal total cost contain all the information that we need to optimize. Start at the top of the column and think about how each move away from the city center affect the worker. The first move from very close to close has a marginal cost of negative $40 per month. So it is cutting that move is worth it. The second move from close to far has marginal cost of negative $10 per month. That move is also cost cutting and thus also worth thinking. The third move from far to very far has a marginal cost of $20 per month, so that move is not worth thinking because it represents an increase in cost. To sum up, the first two moves more than paid for themselves and the final move did not very far cannot be an optimum since moving from far to very far made the worker worse off. Very close can't be an optimum either since moving from very close to close made the worker better off. Finally, close cannot be an optimum since moving from close to far made the worker better off. We conclude that far is optimum, the best feasible choice. Moving from close to far made the worker better off, but moving from far to very far made the worker worse off. Far is the only apartment that satisfied the following property. Moving to the apartment makes the worker better off and making away from the apartment makes the worker worse off. In other words, far has the virtue that it is a better option that is neighbors. So let's proceed. Exhibit 3.8 total cost of each apartment and the marginal cost of moving between apartments assuming an opportunity cost of $10 per hour. The cost minimizing choice is far. We can see this by looking at total cost in purple or by looking at marginal cost in red. Total cost is falling when marginal cost is negative. Total cost is rising when marginal cost is positive. Far is the only apartment that is better than all of its neighbors. Marginal cost is negative when moving too far and marginal cost is positive when moving away from far. Thus, 4 is the only apartment that satisfies the principle of optimization at the margin. Next, the principle of optimization at the margin states that an optimal visible alternative has the property that moving to it makes you better off and moving away from it makes you worse off. The optimizer goal is to make themselves as well off as possible. At an optimum, they cannot do any better. In this example, where we are holding all is fixed, the apartment that is better than all its visible alternatives is also the apartment that minimizes total cost. This is an example of the principle of optimization at the margin, which states that an optimal feasible alternative has the property that moving to it makes you better off and moving away from it makes you worse off. It helps to visualize this idea. Exhibit 3.8 plots that the total cost of each apartment and the marginal cost of moving one apartment at a time farther away from the center of town. For instance, moving from very close to close lowers the total cost by $40. The virtual portion of the dashed red line shows a change of negative $40 between the total cost of very close and the total cost of close. Optimization using marginal analysis will always pick out a single optimal alternative when the total cost curve has the bow-like shape in Exhibit 3.8, where the total cost in purple is falling, marginal cost in red will be negative, and marginal analysis will recommend moving farther away from the city center, thereby lower, lowering total cost. After total cost bottoms out, marginal cost will afterward be positive, implying that the renter should move no farther out when the total cost of is not ball shaped. The calculations get more complicated, but even in this case, marginal analysis ultimately identifies the same optimum that would emerge if we found the option with the lowest total cost. Since marginally analysis always picks out the same optimum as maximizing total net benefit, you can use whichever method is easier for the particular problem that you are analyzing. However, it is important to understand why economists mostly use marginally analysis in practice. Optimization at the margin is simple because you can ignore everything about alternatives that are being compared except the particular attributes that are different. Marginally analysis reminds you to exclude information that is not relevant to your decision. To sum up, mar- marginally analysis has three steps. First is the translate all costs and benefits into common units like dollars per month. Second is calculate the marginal consequences of moving between alternatives. Third is the apply the principle of optimization at the margin by choosing the best alternative with the property that moving to it makes you better off and moving away from it makes you worse off. So, marginally analysis, in other words, the three steps outlined above can be used to solve any optimization problem. Marginal analysis is most commonly used when there is clear sequence of visible alternatives.
How does location affect the rental cost of housing? Economists Beth Wilson and James Brew assembled a database that contains information on many apartments that were available for rent in Portland, Oregon. They used statistical techniques to effectively compare apartments near the city center to similar apartments that were farther away. Such analysis reveals a strong negative relationship between distance and rent, which is plotted in Exhibit 3.9. Exhibit 3.9 Apartment rent in Portland, Oregon depends on distance from the city center. This plot is drawn for apartments that are identical except for their distance from the city center. The blue line is the approximate location of a ring of highways that encircles most of Portland. Exhibit 3.9 was calculated for apartments that all have the following features: one bedroom, one bathroom, laundry unit in the apartment, covered parking, cable and air conditioning, and have none of the following features: a fireplace, access to an exercise room, or access to a pool. The analysis compares the rent of these apartments, holding all their features constant except for the distance to the city center. 3.9 confirms that proximity to the city center raises rents. The closer you get to the city, the higher the rent goes. For example, at a distance of 6 miles from the city center, the typical rent for an apartment with the specified features is nearly $1,000. For an apartment that is 1 mile from the city center, the rent for the same apartment is $1,500. In most cities, though not at all, the farther you are from the city center, the more rental cost falls, holding apartment quality fixed. For example, in Portland, Oregon, rents fall by 33% as you move from the city center to otherwise identical apartments 6 miles out of town. Though the analysis uses special statistical techniques to compare similar apartments located at different distances from the city center, it is possible that some important apartment characteristics were not held fixed in the comparison.